Hey, live from your ESG-powered Vitamix A3500 Ascent Series Smart Blender. It's a Business Pants Friday show here at December 13th Studios featuring AnalystHole Matt Moscardi. Woo! Wow, I got tongue-tied like 15 different times there.
Well, is that a real blender?
Yes, and it is absolutely ESG-powered, yes.
I mean, why isn't that on everyone's holiday list?
On today's weekly wrap-up, ongoing NEO murder stuff. Sorry, we have to report on it. Rupert Murdoch fails to screw over 75% of his children. God eats McDonald's.
No.
And hot sauce is going woke.
Yeah. Oh, it is? Yes.
Our show today is being sponsored by FreeFlowAnalytics.com, the only platform measuring board power, connections, and performance for free.
Yep.
It's so free that I use it daily. Because you know how cheap I am.
I had somebody, a massive asset manager, somebody from there told me they check it all the time. They're using
which is great, and I think that massive asset manager should do that. But why don't you call us and we can do an even more professional situation. We can provide.
That's correct. Well, what you're saying is, I want your money. That's what you're saying.
We can create data feed. What can we do? Data feeds.
Yeah, we can connect. We can
consulting,
give you the history,
advisement. We can help you with your activist investor campaigns.
Much. And by we I mean Free Flow Analytics.
Well, yeah,
because that's not us. That's our sponsor.
All right, I know.
All right,
ready for this?
Do this? Yeah, let's do it.
All right, well.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we do. All right, let's just start at the top. The shooter of the alleged shooter of the United Healthcare Group. No, sorry, the United Healthcare CEO, who was a named executive officer at United Health Group, Brian Thompson. He was arrested earlier this week, right? So
he was, yeah.
It's technically a story of the week. And I highlighted some other things that we could talk about. One of which you're going to cover a little bit more in depth, so we can skip over it for now. The New York Times released an op-ed this morning. Was it this morning?
Yeah, it was. It was this morning.
And it was Andrew Witty, the guy that we're wondering why no one is talking about. And again, we're not suggesting that anyone caused violence to Andrew Witty, but they should at least be talking about Andrew Witty, as he is the actual CEO of the entire enterprise.
CEO. Yeah.
He himself has put an op-ed in the New York Times discussing this issue. And again, I think we can cover that a bit later. Other stuff. It turns out that the alleged shooter was not even a United Healthcare member. That the headline says that that this is from FoxBusiness.com, that he may have targeted company because of size and influence. So this double downs on your theory, Matt, that he was doing a lot of ESG analysis.
What an analyst! I don't mean this to sound the way it's going to sound, but did he use FreeFlowAnalytics.com?
It already sounds bad. Everything you're saying.
I know everything's bad.
Other headlines on this topic: United Health Group CEO, that's Andrew Witty, says that slain executive Brian Thompson was, quote, one of the good guys in leaked memo to employees.
Yeah.
Former Aetna CEO, notice they don't say what his name is. That's Mark Bertolini, says, as another headline, says he'd eliminate employer-sponsored insurance to fix the U.S. healthcare industry in wake of United Healthcare shooting. So we're already, despite the fact that everyone's saying that this murder is horrible, which it is, we're already talking about how to fix the U.S. healthcare industry, right?
I mean, well, first of all,
yeah.
The question I have for you is, are we going to see less names of CEOs in headlines after this?
Well, no, because it's already at a startling low of about 5%, unless your name is Elon Musk or you're a woman. Otherwise, they don't name you.
That's true.
And the final headline I want to cover before you start pontificating is this strange headline: United Healthcare CEO's death is being mocked on LinkedIn, a move that could hurt careers, says human resources expert. That's a strange one. I don't know that I would mock his death anywhere, but I especially wouldn't do it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn does not seem like the place that you mock much of anything. It just seems boring.
Can't we discuss this topic without mocking his death? Can't we just do it in other ways?
If I'm not
Maybe
dunking on somebody, I don't know what we're doing.
So I cut you off. What were you saying there, Matt?
No,
the great Matt Moscardi, AnalystHole.
No, there's nothing great about my thoughts at all. The eliminating employer-sponsored insurance, is that a call for socialized medicine, or is that literally saying...
Absolutely. I mean, right? Or what are they saying? Everyone should be uninsured?
Or basically, is he saying everyone should have to be by their own, and it shouldn't be through... Because it's like what he seems to be espousing is that everyone should have the ability to choose their own healthcare provider, not have their employer choose it for them.
Oh, is that what he's saying? Because that doesn't really help.
Yeah.
They all suck.
Have socialized medicine. That's so.
I had that choice, Matt, as our employer does not provide insurance. I don't know who to yell at for that. I spent a lot of time researching this. Ended up with a certain provider that supposedly was great. It's not United Healthcare, and they suck too. So I don't know how's that going to help. I don't know how that's going to help.
One of my favorite things about when we left the mothership, what insurance companies had started doing, and now everybody does it and complains about it in this country, is if your spouse gets health care offered to them, then you are charged if you don't use theirs.
Yeah.
But both of them do the same thing, so you get charged no matter what healthcare you choose. That's the former Aetna CEO. That's his perfect dream, isn't it?
I can't even. I was thinking today. This show is not about politics, but I thought, hey, boy, this is the moment. I know that. So Donald Trump was elected by pretending to care about the working class of our country, the United States, right? That's ostensibly how he was elected, by trying to say all the right things to the people who are suffering the most in this country. Whereas we know that really what he's doing is that's cover for who he really likes, which is the ruling class of CEOs and the brotherhood of CEOs. That's who he's really trying to help. But this would be what a political moment for him to say, "Screw it, I'm gonna lock up Republican voter support for the next 20 years by saying let's go to universal health care. Let's just do it."
Wow.
Right? Because you're only really screwing over one industry, right? And then you can still kiss the ass of all the other CEOs, but wouldn't that move basically assure Republican wins for decades? I mean, and that, the Bernie types and the AOC types would be thrilled too, as they should be, because, I mean, sometimes you do have to set politics aside and just do the right thing. But wouldn't this be the moment, Matt?
This does seem to be like that moment, but the problem with that moment is you have built up so much political anger against the idea of socialized medicine, against the idea of climate change, against all of these things that we know have been problems forever in the United States, that if you flip on one of them, isn't that sort of just admitting that you were wrong the whole time? Or do you just pretend like you never said it in the first place?
That's what's so fascinating about this. And then we can move on to the other stories of the week, because I know you want to cover this op-ed a bit more in your section. But there's this one particular part of that op-ed section that struck me, which he says, Andrew Witty says, he's talking about Brian Thompson's family. He says, his dad, quote, his dad spent more than 40 years unloading trucks at grain elevators. BT, as we knew him, worked farm jobs as a kid and fished at a gravel pit with his brother. So you see what he's doing there? What they always do is he's trying to make him one of you, right?
He's just like you.
He's normalizing him. He's a working class American, just like all you other MAGA people. And what's fascinating to me is that A, he's not one of you. He's clearly not anywhere near one of you, right? He made $30 million over the past 3 years in total summary comp, and he held roughly $40 million in equity. That's what we know of. But when you go to Fox Business and Fox News, they refer to the alleged shooter Luigi Mangione, they don't refer to him as Luigi Mangione. They refer to him as Ivy League graduate Luigi Mangione.
There it
Every
is.
time.
There
Every
it
time they
is.
cite him, they use that modifier to describe him, despite the fact that he, of course, graduated from the same place that Donald Trump graduated from. But, that's beside the point. But this is just a web of craziness, this whole thing. It really is.
Actually, and when we get to Andrew Witty, I didn't mention this, but since you brought up that segment, Andrew Witty is British.
Yes.
He went to the University of Nottingham. So
Okay.
I'm just wondering
that a real
what
place?
Andrew Witty's connection is to the grain farms of Iowa in his write-up of BT, Brian Thompson. Like, he's glorifying the
It's poverty
Iowa-
porn. It's working class poverty
Isn't it?
porn, I
It's-
suppose.
That's kind of what it is,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's what we're
It's
talking about.
fetishizing the underclass because you need that underclass to make
Because
as
you
much
really
money as
don't
they
want
make.
those pitchforks. Yeah, you really don't want them.
No, and as as we've seen, the profits, the annual profits at United Healthcare, even above and beyond their peers, it has been astounding over the last 10 years. I will say this, Matt, his actual name is not Andrew Witty. If you were in England, you would address him as Sir Andrew Witty. He's Sir, Matt.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, that's
so-
better. No, but Ivy League graduate assassin is what we're saying. Yeah.
All right, so that's the first story of the week. The second story of the week, Rupert Murdoch fails in bid to change family trust. So a Nevada commissioner has ruled against Rupert Murdoch's legal attempt to alter his family trust so that his eldest son, Lachlan, will control the family's media and business empire when he dies. I believe Lachlan, Matt, when you look at our data at freeflowanalytics.com, holds over 60% of influence on those boards, right?
Yes. Well, although we might have to change it if this ruling holds, because this was just this
Well,
was like
he'll
a pre-ruling.
Well, he'll still be the executive chair, right?
He will, but here's the things that
Yep.
the data. It's really hard to make the data right on all of these situations in this way. You have Rupert Keith, who's chair emeritus, right? In the
Yes.
room, you know he's controlling everything.
He's the
You have-
daddy.
You have Lachlan.
Literally the daddy.
The reason why Lachlan has that much influence is because the dual class shares that he owns, the percentage of shares that he owns, he controls it. But with the ruling, now it's actually controlled by the four oldest
When
Murdoch
when
kids.
Rupert dies, yes, when he dies.
When Rupert dies.
Which
So,
maybe never. He might be the first immortal creature. We're not too sure about
it's
this.
possible.
Yes.
I'm not.
Yeah.
We're not ruling out that he is in fact
We're
Dracula.
not ruling
but
that out,
it's-
and nor does
it's-
our database. We don't rule out immortality in the database. Just so
We
you
don't
know.
make a judgment
No,
about the
we
undead
don't.
in our
We don't
database.
set a death date in the database. Just so
We
everyone's
don't,
clear.
Not currently.
No.
But so even like if Keith kicks it, the Lachlan may. The data does not know how to account for the fact that it's actually the four kids at a trust who own the shares, because in the proxy it will say Lachlan is a member of the Murdoch Trust and therefore has the controlling stake, right? So investors even are kind of going to be in the dark. Who actually controls this thing is going to be hard to tell.
Now, before I move on from this story, it is important to note that the man that they're trying to avoid here is James Murdoch. He's the brother that Rupert's trying to avoid, and that's notable for this
Communist
reason.
James.
He's actually we should talk about him more because he's actually a former director at News Corporation who resigned from the board basically in protest. We always complain like, hey, how come directors don't
that's
step down?
right.
And so here's
Yeah.
a director who did step down at a protest.
You did, yeah. And it was over what they actually publish, them being big lying scumbags, right?
I'm just going to move on. Next story. Third story of the week. U.S. Appeals Court tosses NASDAQ diversity rules for company boards.
We knew that was coming. That was inevitable.
I guess. So this was implemented after the murder of George Floyd, back when all CEOs seemed to really want to address racial inequality. But we're only like what? We're 4. Is it less than 4 years later? I'm trying to
Less
remember
than
the
4
date
years,
here.
Yeah, 4 years now. Yeah, 4 years.
And not only are they voluntarily getting rid of DEI programs at their corporations, but they're not going to raise a stink about anything like this. But just to be clear, what that rule was that it gave NASDAQ was requiring companies to have at least one woman and one minority director on their board. Is that right? At least one, was it?
It was. Well, there was the disclosure
Or explain
rules.
why.
There was the disclosure rules, and then there was the after the disclosure rules, it was you had to have at least one or comply or explain. Right. Exactly.
Right. And NASDAQ is a private entity, right? It's its own. It's not a government run entity. It's just a company, right?
It is just a company, and it can make its own rules, and
you would think,
then it
right?
can get sued for discriminating against white people.
Right. Yeah.
Which is what
that's
happened.
the takeaway. Yeah.
That's the takeaway.
And finally, the fourth story of the week. I'm calling it the CEO buddy system. There were a lot of like CEO buddy kind of headlines this week. First of all, this survey out of Deloitte, which says CEO optimism is as high as we've ever seen.
Unbelievable.
Despite the fact that there's most people in the country are not really optimistic about anything. But here are the other headlines. Trump's inaugural fund receives $1 million donation from Mark Zuckerberg's Meta. At least this headline gets it right. They call it Mark Zuckerberg's Meta, right?
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Headline.
And then a few days later, Jeff Bezos' Amazon plans to donate $1 million to Trump's inauguration.
Thank God.
Again, they got it right. They called it Jeff Bezos' Amazon. They didn't call it Andy Jassy's. And then right after that, it's almost like, they're paying attention to each other. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman to donate $1 million to Trump's inaugural fund. On top of that, Elon Musk is gloating because I don't know if you saw this announcement that Trump is saying that he is going to, so any project, any entity that is investing $1 billion or more in the U.S. would receive fully expedited approvals and permits, including but in no way limited to all environmental approvals. So basically giving a complete regulatory pass to the Elon Musk class, right?
I mean, thank God. Somewhere,
that's frightening to me. That's frightening.
We need to be celebrating the fact that finally billionaires are just are getting. I mean, we're finally making it easier for billionaires in this country. It's been so hard to get things done when you have billions of dollars.
So those are the 4 stories of the week. I don't know where you're going to land on this one. Because last week also the story of the week was the shooter, right? Was the murderer? I guess he was arrested this week.
Yeah, but it's all anyone's talking about. I do love the juxtaposition of CEO optimism as high as we've ever seen it, yet CEO pictures are being pulled off of websites and security costs are going up because they're afraid of getting shot now.
Yeah, it's great. No, it's crazy.
You take those two things together.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? Billionaires get a pass. CEO optimism is high. They're also petrified that everyone else is going to kill them because they hate them because billionaires get a pass and they're making all the money.
I would suggest to all the CEOs, and I know all the CEOs are listening. I think 98% of the Fortune 500 listens to us. I would suggest that even if you're optimistic, just tell it to your family. Don't tell others. Don't tell a journalist or don't tell Deloitte.
Just tell Junior over hot dogs and beans, and keep it at that. I think we still have to go.
Yeah.
With the NEO shooter,
especially since no one was expecting Sir Andrew Witty to pen an op-ed in the New York Times, and although what we probably could have expected is that op-ed would be pretty bad. It was pretty. I don't know, as apologies go, I don't know if we'd call it an apology. I don't know what you call it, but it's a tribute to Brian. I don't know what it is. It's like playing defense. I don't really know what it is, but it fails on so many levels, and I can't see many people reading that and feeling good about Sir Andrew Witty or United Health Group.
Well, let's be honest. Can you see many people reading it, period? Does anybody read
Well, I would
anymore?
assume subscribers to the New York Times might spend some time with it, yes. But that's probably not most of the America that should be reading it. But anyway.
So there's 6 people who actually are doing it.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
So that's the
still
story. Yeah, let's
of the
move
week.
on.
All right, let's move on.
I can tell Matt's mood because he didn't even play Goodliest of the Week this week.
You know what? I didn't play most of the week. I'm on the road, and it's hard to focus. So, but give me your Goodliest.
Yeah,
And
I have 2 throwbacks.
Throwbacks. Ooh.
These are classic. I got one from California and one from Paris. It's like the old-fashioned Goodliest of the Weeks that we used to cover. And one of them is something might happen, and the other one is something is happening. So it's that kind of Goodliest. First of all, something that might happen, a California bill would require mental health warning labels on social media. How about that one?
Wait. Why is that Goodliest when we know that Australia banned social media?
Okay, but we're yes, but I don't know. I like the idea of like a label with like a big black lung or something, like a big bleeding lung.
This is your favorite thing. Where you want like a receipt and a label that's
Well, look,
this may cause death.
I depending if my mom is listening or not, I'm sure she isn't, but I may or may not have been a smoker in my past, and I may or may not have lived in Montreal in the past. And I gotta tell you, the graphic warning labels they put on cigarette packages out there are basically almost effective because
Almost
because it does really make you consider how much
really
of an
sold.
idiot you are for destroying your body that way. So. But what really got me, I think, was New York City basically telling me that you are a pariah and you are not legally allowed to smoke anywhere fun anymore.
Yes.
So
correct. Get outside.
and we're
Go
gonna quadruple the price of these with taxes. So that's actually what made me quit.
Honestly, that's the thing though. Like it isn't. That's why the label, California label, does not like. If the rule was you can only use social media sitting outside, then you're talking. Now you're starting to like talk about real incentives. But a label, I don't know.
I hear you. My next one is I think you'll like this one more. This one they're actually doing it, and who could argue with this? Paris is replacing 60,000 parking spaces with trees.
Oh, see, I like that.
Come on.
You know what? I gotta be honest here. I am a real sucker for like the million trillion tree planting
you love
thing.
trees, yeah.
I love the planting. Like I don't know why people are like it won't stop climate change, but I don't know why you wouldn't do it anyway. Trees are beautiful. They're wonderful.
Well,
plant trees anyway.
Forget just the environment. I mean, there have been numerous scientific studies would suggest that even just walking among the trees is good for your mental health, right? It's not just the environment. I mean, trees do wonders.
So we were looking up what it's like to live in New Zealand, and we watched a half dozen videos about living in New Zealand. And
the new right wing New Zealand, you mean?
Yeah, well, we stopped looking at living in New Zealand.
Zealand?
In the top 5 of everyone's things about New Zealand that are different from America, and I'm not kidding about this, all of them had birds as in the top 5, and it was like the country's obsession with how birds like reduce your stress and watching's a big deal. And you plant a trillion trees, that's what you get. You get birds and bugs, and it's beautiful.
Squirrels.
Yeah, squirrels.
Okay, it looks like we have
that one.
We have a late addition to the Goodliest. What do you got, Matt?
Yeah, I have one. It was I saw this and it just made me laugh.
It's going to be sarcastic, right?
Yes, it was sarcastic. Stanley recalls 2.6 million travel mugs due to potential burn hazard from faulty lids.
Isn't that the one thing, Stanley, that you're trying to get right?
That's what I mean.
Is the lid?
There's nothing to the cup part. Like the cup.
I yell at my wife.
Part.
all the time. My wife is still living like it's the 90s, Gen X, 1990s. She brings a mug to the car, an actual mug with her hot coffee in it. She'll put it on the dashboard. She'll put it wherever, and of course, it's dangerous, and I hate it.
It's like flopping around everywhere.
But Stanley, you're not supposed to be emulating that behavior, Stanley. You're supposed to be sealing in the hot beverage.
I mean, come on. There's something comical about the only thing you have to get right about a travel mug is
that's
the
literally
lid.
the only thing.
That's the only thing you
need to have a bottom to the mug too.
That's true. They did.
They got
have
that
a bottom,
right,
so
right?
They got that right. Yeah.
All right.
But still, the winner here is Paris, isn't it?
Come on, obviously.
That's the thing that was good. All right, let's get to Ashley.
Yeah, come on, move on.
Before my voice gives out.
Are we going quickly? I can't tell. I hope.
We're going pretty quickly, actually.
We had like a 4-hour show earlier this week.
I got like 3 1/4.
All right, go ahead. Assholiest.
Assholiest. Number 1 is Andrew Witty. Which is because we talked about his op-ed. I just want to read to you. The op-ed was titled United Health Group CEO. The healthcare system is flawed. Let's fix it. Now, first of all, let's fix it.
Who's us? Yeah.
There is an us there, right? Like, so who are you talking to? Like, are you saying is the royal us or
this
what?
is the Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman play, which is like we know we're ruining the world, so regulate us, fix us, give us guardrails.
Go that far. But I do like the idea that he's saying like the healthcare, everything about the system that we literally are is flawed. Why don't we all fix it together, right? Like, let's just do it together. But here's some quotes for it, okay? And I will follow the quotes just with headlines about United Health in particular, but this applies everywhere. Quote number, here, I'll just read them all. We know the health system does not work as well as it should, and we understand people's frustrations with it. No one would design a system like the one we have, and no one did. It's a patchwork built over decades. Our mission is to help make it work better. Really? Clearly, we are not there yet. We understand and share the desire to build a healthcare system that works better for everyone. That is the purpose of our organization. So he's laying out, effectively, that no one likes the system. I don't know how it got here. Our mission is to make it work better. The purpose of our organization is to make it work for everyone. That's what he's saying.
Let me add one quick thing before you go on. Right before he launches into this, he says that we are also struggling to make sense of the vitriol that is being directed at us, essentially. And then he goes on to say,
then he says the system broken,
that it all sucks. But so it's like, okay, are you really struggling to understand? Go ahead.
Well, now he gets into it in a way that is so tone deaf.
Yeah.
Healthcare, here's a quote. Healthcare is both intensely personal and very complicated.
Right.
And the reasons behind coverage decisions are not well understood.
Yeah.
We share some of the responsibility for that.
Yeah.
Some. There you go. We share some of the responsibility.
First of all, I hate when Sir Andrew Witty's call things complicated as a way of saying, like, you're never going to really understand this. This is above your heads.
You don't really get it. Yeah.
But second of all, he is admitting to some. It's odd. I mean, he really is admitting to something here. I mean, he is. I mean, what's so unusual about this story is that a guy was murdered, right? And yet he's still, instead of just like screaming about gun violence and crazy people and people who don't understand capitalism or whatever, he is kind of taking a little bit of blame here. Like, it's right. A little bit,
maybe.
Well, I mean, he could just be like, we gotta get our gun laws fixed. We gotta fix ghost gun laws. We gotta fix all this stuff. He could be ranting about, but he's kind of covering the stuff that the reason why people don't really care that this guy was shot.
Here's the interesting part about this op-ed.
Go ahead.
It smells deeply of self-preservation. Like,
yes, I agree, but he's not. But he's doing it in a way by kind of, sort of hinting
because
that he kind of understands.
Avoid that. You can't talk about this and not say something.
I didn't think he was going to go this far. I didn't think he would even do this. I didn't think he'd even go public.
The headline is "Let's us fix it. Let's fix it." Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm surprised he's going this far, Matt. Yeah.
Right before this, that like, the system. No one would design a system like the one we have. United Health. You can make the system. You are the majority of the healthcare system, right? Like, I get that there's legislation and problems with the legislation, but it's disingenuous, and the minimum, like a modicum of responsibility he's taking is not even taking it. He's saying we share some of the responsibility for
what percentage do you think that is? How much? 0.001%?
Well, he veers immediately after that and says, quote, while the health system is not perfect, every corner of it is filled with people who try to do their best for those they serve, right?
I like
Brian
when they speak.
Brian was one of those people.
Yeah, I like when they speak in platitudes like that. He also said about Brian that he was working to make healthcare better for everyone. That when a colleague proposed a new idea to Brian, he would always ask, would you want this for your own family? If not, end of discussion. I like when they speak in these unprovable platitudes, right?
There's no one who can, And he ends the segment on Brian by saying the ideas he advocated were aimed at making healthcare more affordable, more transparent, more intuitive, more compassionate, and more human. Now, the more human part really got me because of this headline. How United Healthcare and other insurers use AI to deny claims, right? Like,
Matt, this is why I'm shocked about this whole thing, is that if you just wrote a love letter to one of your employees, I would be sympathetic.
Correct.
I would be understanding, but he's constantly shooting himself in the foot by making up a bunch of nonsense and pretending like this guy was a hero, but you don't have to do that. You can just grieve the loss of a fellow employee, which I think he's entitled to. But you're right. He's constantly like doing, I don't know what he's doing, frankly.
Well, we covered already that United Health has 32% claims denial rate, and it's twice the industry average.
Twice the industry average.
We covered that this same CEO, Andrew Witty, defended practices that prevent unnecessary care. He defended the practices by saying, effectively, if we covered every single claim, the whole system would collapse. That was his argument, right? And
so I guess it's not so complicated. He understands how the system will collapse, I suppose.
But here's the part that drove me nuts too. Andrew Witty does not write this while sitting on the toilet on like Thursday morning and publish it on Friday. There is a team of legal, there is a team of marketing, the investor relations team's involved. The board's supposed to be involved in this. This is a big deal.
That's why it's so wishy-washy, right?
The stock dropped 8% over the last 5 or 6 days. It may be back up today, but as of yesterday, it was down. It was still down. Like the whole industry is in upheaval. You're seeing, as much as you don't want to admit that it took an assassin to get people to focus on this, now we're talking about it, and they're talking about it because they're terrified that the reaction to this by everyone was, we hate you. We wish you were dead. That's
this is not going to make it better.
Reaction.
And this op-ed is not going to make it better. You know, Matt, I wish it kind of like a medley, like a holiday song medley. I wish he had segued right at the end into like promoting the stock to investors. How had their annual gross profit last year was $90 billion, up 14% from 2020. I wish you know what I mean. I wish he had kind of done both at the same time. Like we're killing it, and it's sad this guy got killed, but we're killing it.
The final headline that I read coming out of this was Congress introduces bills to break up United Health Group. And those bills they're not specifically naming United Health Group, but they are bills targeting a certain market share, and there's only United Health Group that fits the profile. That bill is sponsored by Elizabeth Warren and Josh Hawley.
Yeah, I saw that.
The most conservative and progressive senators in the country, arguably, which is insane.
Except I will say about Josh Hawley is he's a Harvard graduate, right? I I don't know what he actually. No one knows what he actually believes, right? He's mostly, it's all political theater and pandering for him. We know what Elizabeth
regardless
believes,
if it's political theater, what they're getting attacked on all sides,
Sure,
which means
as
the
they should.
board is approving Andrew
affects
Witty
everybody.
writing one of the most like it's not when you read it, it's such a nothing burger letter that with so many little things that are just enough fodder for you to hate him even more.
Oh, I know. That's
than
why
if you didn't write anything at all.
I really was shocked at, and you're right. This had to go through legal. It had to go. I would assume it went through the board, right?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
to send out something so again, like it tripped over itself. It's not going to win any fans. It kind of takes blame. It kind of doesn't. I don't understand the rationale for releasing this. It's not a good look for Sir Andrew Witty. It's not going to calm the nerves of anyone, right?
I mean, I'll say it this way. It does feel like it was written in part by a lawyer, and it 100% was read in advance. A draft was read by the guy with the most influence on the board, according to Free Flow Analytics data, the executive chair of the board, Stephen Helmsley, who was the CEO of this company prior, right? There is no way that this letter goes to the New York Times op-ed without that guy having read it first, which means you have an entire culture at the company that is not ever going to change. That this is what they believe, and what they believe is effectively to gaslight you into thinking that they are trying to make healthcare more human, when in reality they are doing everything possible to maximize profit, which is exactly what the assassin was angry about. Like that was the point.
And not just the assassin. I mean, there are a lot of sympathetic souls in America.
I don't want to sympathize with an assassin. Like I don't want a murderer is not what I'm going for here.
Yeah, of course not.
But by writing this, you actually make the murderer seem more sympathetic.
I know,
because
that's
this
the problem.
seems transparently bad, right?
He also, one other thing I wanted to point out before we move on is the hokiness of this and the tone deafness of this. And he says, so I said before that they're struggling to understand the vitriol, and then he goes on to say, no employees, be they the people who answer customer calls or nurses who visit patients in their homes, should have to fear for their and their loved ones' safety. Andrew, no one's angry at your employees, at the nurses. They're not angry at the nurses and the people who answer the phones. They're angry at you, the executives.
Yes,
I mean,
correct.
That he does this weird. He's playing a game. He's shifting this over to the low wage women who work at his company. Basically, like, I don't know what it's
really unbelievable.
Andrew, you blew it. Honestly, you blew it.
So, Andrew, you're up for number one.
We have to have more? There's more?
We may not have to go much farther.
I mean, I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm sorry, but
Number two option is dual class investors. And look, this is simple, right?
I feel like you have this every week, but go ahead.
Every week I kind of bring this up in some way. But based off the headline, Rupert Murdoch fails in bid to change family trust. What he was trying to do was effectively create a trust that Lachlan had dual class shares in, that sat above this trust, so that he could make a dual class shareholding over the trust.
Yeah,
he was trying to dual class his way out of it. Is effectively what he was doing.
He was basically trying to be immortal, right?
Right, but more than that, he's trying to keep like the rage machine that is Fox and it's the Fox empire immortal, because knows
Lachlan will do just as
Rupert
would do. Yes,
and that's what Lachlan's going to do. But the other kids, he doesn't like that way. At one point in the 96-page opinion that came out of this, there's the trust plan was called, quote, a carefully crafted charade.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a carefully crafted charade to permanently cement Lachlan Murdoch's executive roles, regardless of the impact such control would have over the companies or the beneficiaries of the trust. Mm-hmm. Okay, when I read carefully crafted charade, all I thought was, isn't every dual class company a carefully crafted charade to make you think it was a public company that you could own.
It is, but
when
you'd think
really
investors would know better by now, would you
it
not?
is a private company,
Yeah.
right? Like, it seems like the judge who's overseeing the this is not even the final. This doesn't even the judge. This is actually the recommendation. It's not the final judgment. The recommendation, they knew in a scathing report, this is a charade. And yet, investors everywhere go out and buy IPOs of dual-class companies.
Well,
they're not public companies.
This is what kills me about the NASDAQ ruling, right? Is that you're right? Is that we can get the Court of Appeals, conservative Court of Appeals in the South can get angry at NASDAQ for wanting a woman on the board. But that we're allowing these types of companies to be listed in the first place, this is much more harmful to investors, right? I mean,
no joke.
If you're going to get rid of one, you got to get rid of this one too, because they're not publicly held companies, and your normal investor is not going to understand the mechanism, the charade as you call it, because you're East Coast educated.
I'm British, yeah.
They're not going to be able to identify the mechanism being used against them, right? So I don't get how NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, any of these exchanges continue to allow these companies to be listed. It's crazy to me.
I just can't get over it. And all investors, if you are an indexed investor, if you're a passive investor and you say, I have to hold the whole market. And when we were at MSCI, we did a consultation with investors about whether or not dual class shares should be allowed on indexes. And investors overwhelmingly said yes. And the reason why they said yes is because they want that stock to go up.
Because it's a tech company.
It was just tech companies. They didn't want to miss anything.
That's all they care about.
So your FOMO is a carefully crafted charade. That's what I'm getting at.
I like this. I just like charade. I like just like anyone who calls charade a charade. Yeah, I do.
All right, number 3.
Yeah.
Finally, and then I have a little one, but
God.
Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio. Yeah.
Ohio just passed SB 6. SB 6 is one of those anti-ESG bills that's made its way through most of the Republican states.
Of course.
This one is fun for a very special reason. Most of the anti-ESG bills that have passed have largely said you can only consider pecuniary factors or financially material factors. So they're nothing, really. Then nothing's changed. All it meant is the pensions, like they can look at all the same ESG stuff, and because they looked at it as pecuniary anyway, right? Like they just have to explain, like, oh, we're looking at it because we think it's pecuniary.
But it's good political theater. Yeah.
It's great political theater. But Ohio decided maybe it shouldn't be political theater. Here's what they wrote. And all they did was copy and paste the same thing in 5 different, they added it in like 5 different places. The board, in accordance with the board being the board of the pensions in Ohio, in accordance with its fiduciary duties described under this section, shall make investment decisions with the sole purpose of maximizing the return on its investments. Pretty standard stuff. You could do ESG. That's what it does. The board shall not make an investment decision with the primary purpose of influencing any social or environmental policy. Of course not. That's they weren't doing that anyway, right?
The primary purpose of no. I mean,
the primary purpose was never like
certainly not doing that in Ohio,
right? Like, or the primary purpose, attempting to influence the governance of any corporation.
Huh?
They literally outlawed the only thing you can do as the owner of a stock. If you vote your shares, that is influence over the governance of any corporation. They can't now vote by law. What on earth is that? The only thing you get for the stock.
This is why you see the rise in like Vanguard's mirror voting policy, right? Where you just do what Vanguard tells you to do, essentially.
What do you need a mirror voting policy, a herd voting? You don't need a policy at all because you're not allowed to vote against management. It says you cannot attempt to influence the governance of any corporation.
How can this
you can't vote on a director?
How can this law be held up then? Because this goes against your basic rights as a shareholder. No, I mean,
well, someone has to sue, and it has to go to the courts.
This is crazy.
for the interim, right? Like it's sitting on the governor's desk. It's likely to get passed. As soon as it gets passed, for that interim, the Ohio pension system, which is millions of teachers and firefighters, and
Sure.
they literally have to own. Everything is dual class for them. They are. All they can do is abstain because they are not allowed to look like they're influencing any vote. They can't even abstain. They just can't vote. Like, if my reading of this law is correct, you literally cannot vote your shares, meet with the company, engage with the company. If you ask them questions, that's fine, but you cannot make a suggestion or say you're worried about something, because that influences the governance of a corporation.
So what they're basically saying that, and I'll use a real life scenario here, where it was just, I think it was just last year, where at Tyson Foods, they elevated one of the Tyson grandkids to be CFO, despite the fact that he was 20, 30 years old or whatever, clearly did not have the requisite experience to be CFO. He's arrested multiple times for DWI and showing up in women's houses drunk. But what they're saying is that despite that, you would not have the ability to make a decision on whether or not he is on the board or any, right? You do not have a say over that. That's up to the company. It's not up to you.
Let's say you engage with you wanted to call the company and say, what are you doing about that? We're worried if that would affect the share price. Okay.
It's influencing the governance.
That could be influencing, but you could argue that all you're really doing is trying to get some information. But once you have that information, do you know what you can do with that information? Nothing. You can't vote out.
You can't make an investment decision.
You can't make an investment decision about.
Does that mean you can't? So that means you can't divest if you've already invested. If some company's governance is imploding, like at Boeing, where they're keeping the cronies in place and they're not doing anything to address the systemic rot that has brought Boeing to this place, they can't even sell their shares, right? They can't make any investment decision. Right?
Depending on how broadly you want to read this, they literally can't do anything. In which case, what is the point?
I don't know, Matt. I don't know.
This is when it gets insane, right?
Yeah,
because you're making political theater into a real thing. That is so pointless.
Because at first, the political theater was solely about we're going to pretend that we don't believe in climate change because this is the political theater of the times, even though 99% of scientists say this. We're also going to say that we're not going to do anything to promote women and people of color. That's where this theater started, right? The E and the S of the ESG. But I guess some dimwit finally realized that there's also a G in that acronym, and we should also create some laws to make sure that they don't do any G either, not just the E and S, right? Is that what happened?
That effectively somebody woke up and
said, let's attack all three of the letters in the acronym.
We can't forget that the acronym has 3 letters. We should be doing something about the other one too. Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks, Ohio.
So those are your main 3. You've got Andrew Witty, dual class investor, buffoons, and Ohio. And I'll skip the quarter one because it's not that important.
This is tough. I'm gonna say no to dual class investors because that's every week. So I'll have a chance to vote on that next week. Ohio is particularly odious this week, but let's just stick with the theme of the world and the show and America right now. I got to vote for Andrew Witty on this one, and not because he penned an op-ed. I mean, he's entitled to, and actually there could have been a path to create some sympathy here. But for many of the reasons we listed, including some of this horse shit about don't come after our call center workers and our nurses, there's just too much horseshit in that letter that I have to vote for him. Assholes of the week.
You have to admire the balls of a CEO who's literally using nurses as a human body shield, which is all that is. Again,
that's who Ivy Leaguer Luigi Mangione was upset about. He's upset about the nurses in Oklahoma providing hospice care. That's who he was really angry about when he shot a named executive officer at United Health Group.
All right, God, this is what a horrible segment. Why do we do this?
I don't know why anyone listens to this.
Does anybody? All right, let's finish up this show.
Come on.
So this is headliniest winners and predictions.
And look, for those listeners out there who do listen, if you think we're veering off too much off of the goodliest stuff and the happy stuff and the positive news, reach out to us and tell us some stories that we miss. I mean, help
send
us
the good story you're
reading.
reading.
I know that the main business news in the last 2 weeks has been the fact that a named executive officer at United Health Group was murdered. But if you think we're being too negative, let us know and we'll try to adjust some of this for you. So we're headlinest of the week. I just wanted to quickly. Mine is a bit long. I'll go first. The headline is pretty simple: How McDonald's was involved in almost every major news story this past year.
I hate that headline.
This made me laugh. So this is from Fast Company, and these are the stories they highlighted that McDonald's was involved. First, they were involved in customer boycotts involving Israel Hamas war. They're involved with all the inflation talk because McDonald's prices were soaring, $18 Big Macs. They're involved with the E. coli crisis, right? McDonald's quarter pounders making people sick, killing somebody. How about with Donald Trump? He was serving fries in the McDonald's, helping him get elected in the 2024 election. How about this one, which I added that Fast Company missed? RFK, this is the headline, RFK Jr. brutally mocked over Make America Healthy Again hypocrisy as he enjoys McDonald's really bad meal with Trump. Remember that?
Yeah, it was
photo
delicious,
op.
yeah.
And then finally, Luigi Mangione, who we've been discussing ad nauseum on the show. He's the alleged murderer of Brian Thompson. He's arrested at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania, the same place where Donald Trump was serving fries. Not the same McDonald's, but a Pennsylvania McDonald's.
I thought all news was good news. There was no bad news. It was just like brand. I thought that was the case.
How about the fact that McDonald's is basically God? It is our ubiquitous, omnipresent entity,
wow, that
right?
just got deep.
What's your headliniest?
My headliniest is much shorter. Here's a headline.
Sorry.
BuzzFeed survives by selling Hot Ones to George Soros.
Yeah.
So, first of all, Hot Ones is awesome. George Soros being in a headline is great. And BuzzFeed being relevant in any way is funny. But what made me laugh out loud?
I didn't know they owned Hot Ones, to be honest.
I didn't either. Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
The winner of might I remind you, the winner of the Paul and Daisy Soros Scholarship. He
scrubbed from his website, but yes.
Well, they didn't. So we know he still got it. He still owns a 9% stake in the A shares of the dual class company that is BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
And one of the things in the article they talk about is BuzzFeed had a large amount of debt that they paid off by selling Hot Ones to a Soros-linked fund. And Vivek not involved at all in the decision. In fact,
shocking. Dual class company, right? It was BuzzFeed's dual class, yeah.
And he was trying to basically influence it and take board seats and whatever.
How was he doing that?
It's all. He might as well not be there. I just love it because he just looks like such a rube. It's great.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
I'm going to say I won that.
Yeah, fine. I don't care. You're the winner. Let's wrap up the week.
Who's the winner of the week?
Winners. I got two winners. I know you're going to hate that.
You got too many.
My first winner was directors who resigned in protest. That's the aforementioned James Murdoch, right? He resigned from News Corporation. The other winner is CEOs who take over companies from founders while the founder stays as executive chair. And the headline is
really good.
Oracle CEO Safra Catz plans to sell over $1 billion of stock.
Holy moly.
$1 billion.
$1 billion?
$1 billion. There you go.
Wow.
That's a winning moment. Yeah. What do you got?
Speaking of billions, my winner of the week is any billionaire who needs a permit. Actually, so this is based off the story that Trump right now, and you mentioned this earlier, is going to fast track all the permits. If you've invested $1 billion in this country in any way, he basically will just give you free environmental permits. You can destroy whatever you want.
It's called Texas, but yeah, go ahead.
It's called graft. But when I saw it, the first thing I thought of is, do you remember that story from earlier this year? Like it was in March or April, about there was a guy in the Hamptons, a billionaire in the
yeah.
Hamptons,
Yeah.
who basically did additions to his house, illegally cleared land, and built like on the wetlands that are endangered wetlands in Long Island. And he was fined by this little village. He basically accounts for most of the village's entire budget now, fighting the lawsuits against him because he refuses to pay. He sold the house, but no one can live there because they didn't get the permits they need. I just thought that problem solved, right? Like, all he has to do is be like, I'm a billionaire. I live here. I need a permit. And it's done. So those are your winners, people. Those are your winners.
All right, predictions?
Yeah, I predict that next week we will not talk about Brian Thompson. That's what I predict.
Really?
Yeah, I'm predicting it. This is the
self-imposed.
last week of this.
Self-imposed.
No, I think it's the cycle on it is going to end
already
until
over.
the trial happens. Yeah, I think so.
My prediction that here's the next McDonald's headline we're going to read. Shareholders sue OpenAI's ChatGPT after the chatbot coaxed a troubled chief revenue officer to eat 850 quarter pounders during last month's nor'easter.
Wow, that just gets at all of the things. That's quite the headline.
That's yeah.
That's all we got. That's Hazelnut Rollis. I'm your analyst, Matt Moscardi.
Yeah, that's all. That's plenty. It's a lot. More than you do.
It's too much. It's too much.
Come on.
Come back next week to our full slate of shows. Until then.